Hi, I'm Christina, and these are my best books of 2023. I have The Mysterious Case of the Alperton Angels by Janice Hallett. So this is a mystery novel and it's presented to you in mixed media format. It's in the form of WhatsApp messages, emails, transcripts of interviews, first drafts of novels, and then excerpts from published novels. And in the very beginning of the book, you're told that you've just been given a key to a safety deposit box, and inside is archived research material for a book that has just been published. And what you have to do is read everything and then decide, are you going to take it all to the police, or are you going to put it back in the safety deposit box and throw away the key? So I thought this was such a brilliant novel. It was so much fun reading it. The Alperton Angels are a cult, and in the story, they're a very famous kind of cult. And now we are following a woman who is writing a true crime book about them, but she's writing it from a new angle, and we are following her through the writing process throughout the reading of this book. And yeah, it was so much fun. It was like a puzzle that you could read. It's kind of like an escape room in a book. I really enjoyed it. It really made me think. I was just trying to piece it all together. I was trying to figure out what was going on, what was happening, just trying to answer all of these kind of questions in my head and try and piece together the clues. And I just had a really good time with it. It was just good fun, I would say. And yeah, I think it's a really, really good book. I think she does the mixed media format very, very well, and I just had such a fun time trying to figure it out. And yeah, it kind of felt like a game, like a puzzle, and I just really appreciate that style. I have Assembly by Natasha Brown. This book was shortlisted for the Orwell Prize for Political Fiction in 2022, and it's a tiny little book. It's only 100 pages in length in this edition. Now, as it is such a short book, I don't want to tell you too much about it. I'm just going to say that it's about a Black British woman who works in the banking industry, and she's from a very working class background, and she's worked exceptionally hard to get to where she is today and to have created the life that she has built for herself. Her boyfriend is a white man who is from a very wealthy family, so much so that you can actually trace his ancestry back in time. So they're from very different worlds. This book really explores themes of race, of identity, of belonging, of class, of wealth, of love, of relationships. It covers so much. And it's written in very short chapters with very short paragraphs, and normally that isn't a style that I particularly like, but I thought it works so brilliantly in here. It was so brilliantly written, and it was just such an impactful read. It really made me think, and I read the whole book in a single sitting. I just thought it was brilliant, and it made me think quite a lot, and it really did kind of hit me hard at the end. There's a certain storyline that I don't want to give away because of spoilers, but yeah, it was very hard hitting. It made me feel very, very emotional, and to think that a book that is only 100 pages could have this kind of impact on me and make me think about it for so long is just a testament to how brilliant a book it truly is. I have Case Study by Graham McCrae Burnett. So this one is another kind of unique story, and I have to say I don't think I've ever read anything quite like this. So at the very beginning of the book, you are told that this person has received an email from someone who has found a group of notebooks whilst they were clearing out a house. Now, the notebooks belong to their cousin, who was a patient of a very notorious psychotherapist in the 1960s, who is now a rather disgraced figure and has kind of fallen into obscurity. And the reason they thought this person might like these notebooks is because they'd read a blog article they'd written on this person, and they thought it might help their research. So the book itself is presented to you as the notebooks that have been found in the house, which have been lightly edited by the person who received them, and then they've also put alongside the notebooks their own background research on this man, this notorious, disgraced psychotherapist. The psychotherapist himself had very kind of wild ideas about psychiatry, and he had some very unusual practices. He was a very arrogant man, he was a very narcissistic man, he didn't really care so much about laws and rules, and so you see the type of character that I'm talking about. So yeah, I thought it was really well written. It was really intriguing. It was just such a great reading experience. I didn't know what was fact, what was fiction, what was fabrication, and I was just so intrigued by the whole story, and I was just trying to figure out what is actually happening, what can I believe, who can I believe, and I just really, really enjoyed reading it. I thought it was executed so well. He's really pulled together so many different things in this story, and I think the execution of it is absolutely brilliant. I really enjoyed it and I would highly recommend it. And yeah, like I say, genuinely unlike anything I've ever read before, and just had a really good time with it. And I was just so intrigued by the whole situation. And I thought it was really good. I have Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield. So this story is about two women who are married, one of which is a marine biologist. She goes travelling around the world researching the ocean and its wildlife. She's going on one of these missions and she's expected to be in the submarine for a total of 3 weeks, and then she goes missing for a total of 6 months and they have no idea where her submarine is. So this story really explores themes of love, of relationships, of marriage, and also grief. It's got a very heavy focus on grief. And I really like the way that it did explore that subject in so many different ways. And we looked at grief in so many different forms, one of which is the grief that you feel for someone before they have actually died, and how you can actually grieve the person who they used to be, and you can grieve the relationship that you used to have together. And I thought it was so beautifully written. Her prose style is absolutely gorgeous. I just love the way that she writes. It's written so beautifully, and it was a very hard-hitting kind of story. And it was a very strange kind of book as well. It's very unusual. I didn't 100% know what was going on. I would call it, in terms of genre, literary fiction with some horror elements. And yeah, I thought it was really good. And it was so unexpected as well, in a way. And overall, I think it was really unique. I can't think of a single book that I've read that feels similar to this. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. So I have Cursed Bread by Sophie McIntosh. This was longlisted for the Women's Prize for Fiction in 2023. It's set in a small town in France in the 1950s, and our main character is the baker's wife. One day, a new couple move to the town and she tries to befriend the woman. So this story is about obsession, it's about longing, it's about desire, and I think it's genuinely the best representation and the most disturbing representation of obsession that I've ever read in a book. It is a very strange book, it's very eerie, it's unusual, and I would best describe it as a fever dream. I didn't quite know what was going on a lot of the time, but I did know that I was enjoying it. I was very engaged and I read it in a single day, and I thought it was brilliant. I really enjoyed it, and I just had to know what had happened, and I just honestly didn't want to put it down until I finished it, and that's what I did. I have I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman. So this is a science fiction dystopian novel, and not only is it one of my favourite books of the year, it's also one of my favourite books of all time now. I thought it was absolutely wonderful. The story focuses on 4 women who are living in a cage. Our main character is the young girl. There are 39 women and 1 girl, and we're just following her throughout her life. And they know so very little about their own situation that you as the reader know as little as them. So they don't know why they're in this cage, they don't know where exactly they are being held, and they don't actually know how long they've actually been here. So there's so many questions. So many unanswered questions, and I just really enjoyed it. I was so intrigued by the story. I was trying to figure out what was happening, trying to just answer all of these unanswerable questions, and just really trying to figure out what on earth is going on and why is any of this happening. And I think the main character is such a great main character. She's such a strong person, even as a child, but especially as the woman she grows to be. And overall, I would say that this book is very sad, actually. It's very bleak at times, and yet it's also so incredibly hopeful and uplifting. And I just think that's just a wonderful thing, that a book could be so sad and so bleak and have so few questions answered, and yet at the same time feel so hopeful and so uplifting. And yeah, I thought it was brilliant. So next I have Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. So this is a dystopian post-apocalyptic book, and it's one of the most unique post-apocalyptic books I have ever read. It is very different from the others. This one is a lot more hopeful and a lot more uplifting. And I really like the way she interconnects the different characters, the different stories, the different timelines. And oftentimes the characters don't know about these connections, but we as the reader do. And I also think she writes so beautifully. I love the way Emily St. John Mandel writes. It's gorgeous, gorgeous writing. And one of my other favourite things is the focus on the arts. So oftentimes that part of humanity is lost in post-apocalyptic books, but here is a central theme. We have a focus on Shakespeare, plays, music, comic books, and I really enjoy that part of it. And yeah, overall it was such a good book. I was very much connected to these characters, and I just had a really good time with it, and it is written so, so beautifully. So the next book I have is Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel. So she has 2 spots on my best books of the year this year, and she is quickly becoming one of my favourite authors. So this is another science fiction book, and I thought this one was written absolutely beautifully too. This story is set across centuries, and it's also set across worlds. So the story is set partly on Earth and partly on the moon colonies, and the story spans the years from 1912 to 2401. I loved the characters in this. There are lots of different characters that we follow, and one of the main characters is so, so wonderful, and I absolutely loved his character. Again, this is written so beautifully. I really enjoyed it. I just had such a good time with it, and I was so emotionally connected to these characters. I think it's one of my favourite science fiction books of all time, and yeah, I think it's absolutely wonderful. I have Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is historical fiction, and it's about a rock band called Daisy Jones and the Six who were popular in the 1970s. Now, as well as being one of my favourite books of the year, this is also now one of my favourite books of all time, and the reason for that is the characters. Taylor Jenkins Reid writes brilliant characters always, and absolutely no exception here. I was so connected to these characters. They felt so real, so believable, so genuinely like real people. So Daisy Jones and the Six were an infamous band, and then at the height of their career, whilst they were on tour, they split up, and nobody truly knows why. Now it's been years later, and the story is told in an interview format, and it's told through 18 different perspectives. And obviously everybody remembers things differently, and of course some people will be lying about certain things and trying to cover up other things, and there's also, you know, looking back at things through rose-tinted spectacles. So you're kind of presented with all of these different accounts of the exact same thing that happened, and that felt so realistic because obviously people do remember things differently, and also there's lots of addiction in here with alcohol and drugs, so obviously people remember things differently because of that, and just it felt so genuinely real. I would believe you if you told me that this is a real book about a real band who really existed and all of the characters are real. Obviously that's not true, but really, really good. The characterization is wonderful. I was, so connected to these characters, so connected to the story, and just really enjoyed reading this book. And yeah, it made me very emotional. All of Taylor Jenkins Reid's books make me emotional. This one did too. I thought it was absolutely brilliant, and I would highly recommend it. So in first place, I have The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So yeah, Taylor Jenkins Reid has my first place and my second place of my best books of 2023. I thought this one was absolutely wonderful. The story is about Evelyn Hugo, who was a 1950s Hollywood icon. And now at the age of 79, she's going to tell the world her story. And I thought, again, the characters in this were absolutely brilliant. Taylor Jenkins Reid just writes brilliant, brilliant characters. They were so believable, and I found this story so moving, so emotional. I was so connected to the characters. I was so invested in what was going to happen. And again, this one did make me cry, and I found it a very emotional, very moving read. And I also loved all of the different explorations of love. So obviously she has 7 husbands, and all of those relationships are very different in different ways. And obviously we find out who her true love is as well, which I absolutely loved. And yeah, I just loved all the different explorations of love. So she has relationships where it's mainly lust and infatuation. She has relationships where it's friendship and companionship. And then she has loyalty. And then she has the kind of passionate love affairs and soulmates and the loves of her life. And I just thought it was really, really interesting. And she genuinely felt like a real person. So she had this kind of glamorous, scandalous life. And she definitely reminds me of a kind of Marilyn Monroe figure. And I just thought the whole book was absolutely wonderful. I thought it was written brilliantly. The characterization again is excellent. And I think that Evelyn Hugo is now my absolute favourite character that Taylor Jenkins Reid has written. I just thought she was wonderful, and yeah, really enjoyed it, and I would highly, highly recommend it. So that's it. Those are my best books of 2023. Definitely let me know what are some of your favourite books of the year down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Please do like the video if you've liked it, and please do subscribe if you'd like to hear more of me talking about books. Bye.